Rick Harrison used to be a man who millions of people knew from TV shows about collecting old things. Now he looks very different, and shockingly different from the man who millions of people knew. Rick's empty eyes seem to be hiding things that words can't say behind four walls of concrete. People are shocked by his most recent picture after serving a long term. But it wasn't the sentence that shocked people in America. It was a movie that got out. Rick was shown in this scene to be completely alone, as if he had lost all human ideals. Is what that video says true? Or is it just the beginning of a bigger plot? A program that breaks the law and has goals and meanings that have not been made public. Rick Harrison went from being praised to being blamed, from the stage to a prison cell. What happened to him? Who is telling the truth about the pictures that have made such a stir in the public? Let's watch this video to find out. Since the early 2010s, Rick Harrison has been the sign of trust. Pawn Stars is more than just the name of a reality TV show. It reminds us of the time when people could watch TV and get lost in history through old things and dramatic talk. As the show's main host, Rick is its heart and soul. Pawn Stars is appealing not because of its exciting plot or the usual drama of reality TV, but because it is straightforward, honest, and informative. Every show makes viewers feel like they are learning something new from Rick Harrison, because he comes across as smart, honest, and funny. There is a story from UWI, a Roman coin, or a map that is worth tens of thousands of dollars. In the eyes of the people, he was the perfect mix of smart businessman and honest historian, a man who could see the past with both a business sense and a deep respect for it. His collapse, though, began with that one-of-a-kind mix. As Rick's fame grew, so did his fortune. His shop in Las Vegas quickly went from being a small pawn shop to a tourist attraction. Hundreds of people would wait in line just to see Rick. The things that were being shown were no longer widespread. They were uncommon, expensive, and not clear. People in the know started to wonder how a pawn shop could own things that belong in museums or state collections. Then the darkness started to come in. There were questionable financial reports, shell companies and tax havens, deals that weren't billed, and artifacts that didn't have any proof of where they came from. Every piece of the puzzle tells a disturbing story about how profit and morals are often at odds with each other. Rick is now thought to be more than just an evaluator. He may have also changed the past to benefit himself. Suspicion leads to an investigation, which leads to a charge. There are hundreds of pieces of evidence, dozens of witnesses, and a lot of open questions in a huge federal case that starts, did Rick really not know where the items came from? Or did he know but choose not to say anything? When prosecutor Pam Bondi asks these direct questions, she slowly takes away the mask that Rick has been wearing for more than 10 years. Many people were shocked by Rick Harrison's appearance when he first went to court. Rick was no longer the cocky man who charmed TV fans. He was a quiet man in a dark gray suit with sunken eyes and gray hair. Bondi showed a lot of proof, like papers, emails, and videos of illegal activities. Rick didn't argue or respond, he just kept quiet. But when a Torah scroll came out, it really shook the courtroom. It was proven to have been stolen from the Holocaust Museum. Rick paid cash for it, didn't keep a record, and hid it in the basement under his house. Rick cried, not because he felt bad about what he did, but because he was scared. That's when he understood that his good name, his past, and his once proud TV empire were no longer shields against punishment. He no longer looked at the lawyer like he thought he was above the law. The look on his face showed that he knew he had lost. A hero had died. A man who was once seen as TV's most reliable dad had turned into a sign of betrayal. Online platforms quietly took down shows of Pawn Stars, and people who used to work together broke up. Images of people at the store with Rick were shared again, with the upsetting words, "I can't believe this man betrayed our culture." On screen, the idea of a reliable dad has totally fallen apart. And when a video of Rick Harrison in jail got out, everyone was excited. The time when this man who was once liked had to deal with real problems. It is said that the tape was secretly shot at Pennsylvania's Allenwood P. Federal Prison. It came out about 6 weeks after Rick was officially found guilty of 3 serious crimes: tax evasion, laundering money, and trading culture between countries. The video, which was only 2 minutes and 49 seconds long, was shot on a small device that was probably hidden in a pocket or sleeve. It was shaky and fuzzy, but the picture's rawness made it seem even more real and scary, and it started a heated discussion on social media right away. At the time of the video, Rick Harrison was the star of one of America's most famous reality shows. He was seen sitting with his head down on a cold concrete floor at a metal dining table. His pale, tired, dead face was lit up by flickering fluorescent lights. Rick didn't say anything and was barely moving. He was holding on to the edge of the table like it was the only thing that could keep him grounded. A prisoner walked by and said something unclear, maybe to make fun of Rick, which made him look up. That quick look showed a painful mix of shame, fear, and hopelessness. In the scary last seconds of the video, the plastic food tray in front of him was still empty. A guard walked by and said something that Rick couldn't quite make out. He shook his head a little and then slowly got up, left the table, and walked into a dark part of the dining room, leaving the food tray behind. Even though the camera shook and faded, that was enough to make people jump. The phrase "Rick Harrison prison footage" shot to the top of Google searches across North America just 24 hours after the video came out. People are worried about Rick not only because of how he looks, but also because of how he's been treated in jail. More information, in-depth stories, and people close to the situation have helped to make things clearer. A former guard said that Rick is being held in medium solitary confinement, which is for prisoners who are thought to be dangerous or guilty of major crimes. In theory, this is a way to keep yourself safe. However, in reality, it's complete loneliness, with no friends, no talk, and no human contact. There are only cold gray walls and the sound of footsteps in empty hallways. Someone who did not want to be named told The Guardian that this is not security. This is a form of long-term punishment for the mind. Rick has always loved being in the spotlight and having people praise and admire him. Being cut off from his audience is like giving him a death sentence. He was no longer called a TV star. No one asked to be signed or taken a picture. In jail, he was just a name and a number. Or even worse, he was seen as a traitor to the cultural values he used to stand for. Investigative reporters have also found statements from some of Rick's fellow prisoners. One prisoner who got out 3 months ago said that Rick was often avoided, especially by people who had been in the military or who were from minority groups that had strong cultural ties with him. A lot of people were really angry about the crimes he was found guilty of, especially the smuggling of religious and historical items. For them, it wasn't just theft. It was a breach of a holy trust. The former prisoner said it was strange that the leaked video didn't show Rick being hit or otherwise violently abused. Instead, the eyes, words, and lack of concern shown by the guards made for a strangely pitiful picture. A lot of psychologists think that this video shows a more advanced form of punishment in which the criminal is not hurt physically but is slowly deprived of his identity and social life. This could be the worst sentence for someone like Rick, who was once the center of attention. So why does this video clip shock me so much? Stay tuned for the next part, where we'll look at the lives of famous people who are in jail, from those who are seen by many to those who are locked up alone. There was a time when Rick Harrison was always on TV on the weekends. With his deep voice, strong personality, and smart but friendly way of talking, he was the perfect example of an honest, clever, and successful American. Rick was the most trusted person in the family and had the final say in all talks on Porn Star. Millions of viewers around the world looked up to him. He was like a father, a master, and someone who showed me how important history is. The leaked tape, on the other hand, shows Rick in a very different light. He is no longer famous or well-known, and he is now alone, avoided even by himself. Not only is this change caused by being in jail, but also by how people treat him inside. The respect he used to have is now the reason he is kept alone. When you look at the video more closely, you can see that Rick doesn't talk to anyone nearby. He never makes eye contact or starts a talk with someone, and he always stands a clear distance from them. This could be a defense move, but it's also clear that he knows how people around him see him now that things have changed. In a prison, where unwritten rules often take precedence over written rules, Rick is in a different situation because of the way this place is organized. Not a drug lord, as many people might think, but a culture criminal, which is a name that makes people feel bad and rejects them. One big reason why Rick is alone is the type of crime he was found guilty of. This is especially true for prisoners who have served in the military or have close ties to indigenous groups. It is not only against the law to trade religious or cultural items, but it is also morally wrong. Megan Holy, a cultural researcher who wrote a study for The Atlantic magazine, said that treating rich and famous people like exhibits is a slap in the face of history. That slap came back to haunt Rick in jail. A place where natural fairness is the most important thing. Someone in the jail said that Rick had tried to talk to a group of prisoners in the exercise yard twice, but they didn't respond. Someone told him, "Mr. Examiner, you should find your own values." The comment was funny, but it was also filled with cold disdain because it made fun of Rick's ability to make good decisions, which used to make him stand out, but was now seen as silly. At least so far, Rick hadn't been attacked physically, but the lack of interest and disrespect he was feeling was a subtle but scary way to punish him. An expert on jail behavior at the University of Chicago, Dr. Alexander Rue, said that when a prisoner who used to be famous is left alone and avoided by both other prisoners and prison staff, it feels like long-term torture to their nervous system.